He was Hollywood's original strongman, a biblical hero, a silver screen heartthrob, and a war veteran. But behind the muscles, behind the fame, Victor Mature was hiding something. In his final days, as darkness closed in and his vision faded to black, he made a confession that stunned even his closest friends. This isn't just a story of stardom, it's one of guilt, grief, revealing a painful secret and the truth he couldn't die without telling. Victor Mature was born Victor John Mature on January 29, 1913, in Louisville, Kentucky, to a Swiss father and a Kentucky-born mother of Italian descent. His father, Morello Galindo Mature, owned a local cutlery business, and Victor spent much of his early life helping in the family trade. Though his rugged good looks would one day land him on the covers of magazines, his early years were steeped in modesty, work ethic, and a desire to carve out a meaningful path in life. After high school, Mature briefly attended the Kentucky Military Institute before moving on to the Pasadena Playhouse in California to study acting. It was there that he honed his skills and began the transition from a young man with dreams to a professional actor with undeniable star power. He worked odd jobs, including as a refrigerator salesman and a plasterer, before catching the attention of Hollywood producers who saw in him a leading man in the making. Mature's breakthrough came with the 1940 film 1 Million BC, in which he played the prehistoric hero Tumac. The film's success made him an overnight sensation, and his muscular physique, chiseled features, and commanding screen presence quickly catapulted him into the spotlight. In the 1940s, he starred in a number of box office hits, including My Gal Sal, 1942, 7 Days Leave, 1942, and I Wake Up Screaming, 1941, showcasing his ability to handle both romantic leads and dramatic roles. Perhaps his most iconic roles came in the biblical epics that defined a portion of his career. In Samson and Delilah, 1949, directed by Cecil B. DeMille, Mature's portrayal of the legendary strongman, who is undone by love, became one of his most memorable performances. He followed it with roles in Demetrius and the Gladiators, 1954, and The Robe, 1953, further cementing his place as a fixture in epic historical dramas. Despite these heroic portrayals, Mature was never one to take himself too seriously. He often joked about his acting abilities and once famously quipped, "I'm no actor, and I've got 64 pictures to prove it." This self-deprecating humor, combined with his refusal to be typecast, added layers of complexity to his public persona during the war. During World War II, at the height of his fame, Mature put his career on hold to serve his country. He enlisted in the U.S. Coast Guard and served with honor in the South Pacific, attaining the rank of Chief Boatswain's Mate. This decision, coming at a time when he was a top-billed star, was a testament to his sense of duty and humility. His patriotism extended beyond performance and public image. It was rooted in his values and actions. As the 1950s waned, Mature gradually stepped away from leading man roles. He chose to work less, appearing in occasional film and television roles throughout the 1960s. He made a brief return to acting in the 1970s, often in cameo or comedic roles that played off his earlier image. Despite being dubbed a Hollywood hunk, Mature had a surprisingly down-to-earth approach to fame. He was known for refusing to join the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences because, as he put it, "I'm not an actor, and I've got 64 movies to prove it." Yet this quote often overlooked the fact that his performances, particularly in Kiss of Death, 1947, and The Long Haul, 1957, were critically praised and revealed an actor capable of much more than just flexing his muscles. As the decade progressed, Mature's career took a more entrepreneurial turn. He began making films for his own production company, Romina Productions, which he established in partnership with United Artists and Bat Jack Productions, the latter founded by legendary actor John Wayne. One of the standout films from this period was China Doll, directed by Frank Borzage, in which Mature took on a dual role as both star and co-producer. This project was a significant step. It marked his transition into producing and gaining more control over the kinds of films he was involved in. He also announced plans for future productions with Borzage, including films like The Incorrigibles and Vaults of Heaven, though these projects would ultimately not come to fruition. The venture into production was a bold move for Mature, signaling his desire to shape his career on his own terms and break away from the mold of just being a hired actor. Mature's partnership with Warwick Productions also continued during this time. He signed to make 2 more films, No Time to Die, released as Tank Force, and The Man Inside. While he managed to complete Tank Force, a World War II film set in Libya, the second project, The Man Inside, never came to be for him. Jack Palance eventually took over Mature's role, highlighting the fickle nature of the industry and how quickly an actor's trajectory can change. Tank Force, set in the Libyan desert, allowed Mature to once again explore themes of war and military conflict, a genre that remained highly popular in the post-World War II era. His involvement in such a film also spoke to his versatility, as he could move seamlessly between action-packed war stories and more light-hearted adventures. In yet another partnership with Romina Productions and Bat Jack, Mature starred in the Western Escort West, which was released by United Artists. Westerns were a staple of American cinema during the 1950s, and Mature, with his rugged good looks and strong screen presence, was a natural fit for the genre. Escort West allowed him to return to the wild frontier, where he could embody the archetypal cowboy, navigating the challenges and moral dilemmas of the Old West. The film was well received, adding to his growing list of Western credits. Another notable project from this period was Timbuktu, a French Foreign Legion adventure tale that Mature filmed for producer Edward Small and director Jacques Tourneur. The film transported Mature to a completely different setting, one filled with the drama and tension of the Legion's perilous missions in North Africa. His portrayal of a determined and rugged character allowed him to demonstrate his ability to thrive across a variety of genres and settings. By the late 1950s, Mature had developed a strong relationship with producer Irwin Allen, leading to his involvement in The Big Circus, a film shot in early 1959. The movie was an ambitious project, focusing on the inner workings of a circus and the behind-the-scenes drama that unfolds in such a unique setting. Mature's ability to adapt to this unusual world of show business added yet another feather to his cap, as an actor who could transition between a wide range of genres. His versatility, combined with his physicality and screen presence, made him a sought-after commodity for producers looking for someone who could play everything, from a war hero to a circus performer. In terms of other projects, Mature's filmography also included The Bandit of Job, a film he made for Warwick Productions following The Long Haul. This film was one of his final collaborations with the company. It was followed by his role as the title character in the Italian peplum film Hannibal, in which he portrayed the legendary Carthaginian general. The film, shot in Italy, marked a significant departure for Mature, placing him in the heart of the ancient world, where he could embody a character from history and bring that larger-than-life persona to the big screen. His portrayal of Hannibal, filled with intense emotion and military strategy, was in line with the epic nature of the peplum genre. His role in The Tartars, filmed in Italy with Orson Welles, was another project in that same genre, further solidifying his association with the sword and sandal epics that were growing in popularity at the time. His portrayal of Hannibal, filled with intense emotion and military strategy, was in line with the epic nature of the peplum genre. In The Tartars, filmed in Italy with Orson Welles, was another film in the peplum genre, further solidifying his association with the sword and sandal epics that were growing in popularity at the time. In a 1978 interview, Mature said of his decision to retire from acting at age 46, "It wasn't fun anymore. I was okay financially, so I thought, what the hell, I'll become a professional loafer. Victor Mature, the ruggedly handsome star of Hollywood's golden era, led a personal life that was as dynamic and multifaceted as his screen roles. Over the course of his life, he was married 5 times, each marriage reflecting a different chapter in his evolving journey through fame, romance, and domestic life. His first marriage was to Frances Charles, a union that marked the beginning of his attempts to balance the demands of stardom with the desire for personal fulfillment. Although not much is widely known about their relationship, it set the tone for his later attempts to find lasting companionship amidst the often tumultuous world of show business. Following his divorce from Frances Charles, Mature wed Martha Stevenson Kemp, a woman already acquainted with the public eye through her previous marriage to renowned big band leader Hal Kemp. Martha had experienced her own share of the spotlight and loss. Hal Kemp had tragically died in a car accident in 1940. Her background in the entertainment world likely gave her a unique understanding of Victor's professional life. But even that shared understanding could not sustain their marriage indefinitely, and the relationship eventually came to an end. Mature's third wife was Dorothy Stanford Barry. Though not a public figure herself, Dorothy became part of Victor's increasingly complex personal history. Their time together is less documented in the public record, but as with his other marriages, it reflected Mature's ongoing search for emotional stability and a supportive partner outside of the Hollywood limelight. Next came Adrienne Erwick, another woman who briefly stepped into Victor's complicated and high-profile life. Their marriage was relatively short-lived, yet it marked another step in Mature's quest for companionship in the face of the often isolating reality of celebrity. It was in his 5th and final marriage that Mature seemed to find lasting peace and fulfillment. In 1974, he married Loretta Sabina, a woman who would remain by his side for the rest of his life. Their marriage endured for over 2 decades, up until Mature's death in 1999. Together, they had 1 child, a daughter named Victoria Mature. Victoria would go on to follow in her family's artistic footsteps, carving out her own path as an opera singer, a nod to her mother, Loretta, who had also been a trained opera singer herself. Victoria's accomplishments in the classical music world speak not only to her personal talent, but also to the enduring artistic legacy of the Mature family. In addition to his marriages, Victor Mature was romantically linked to some of the most iconic actresses of his time. He was briefly engaged to screen siren Rita Hayworth, one of the era's most glamorous stars, before she went on to marry legendary filmmaker Orson Welles. His romantic connection to Hayworth, although ultimately fleeting, underscored his presence within the inner circles of Hollywood royalty. Mature was also engaged to actress Anne Shirley, best known for her roles in films of the 1930s and 1940s. These high-profile relationships added yet another layer to his complex and fascinating personal life, further cementing his image as one of Hollywood's most captivating leading men, both on and off the screen. Victor Mature, the ruggedly handsome Hollywood leading man known for his iconic roles in Samson and Delilah, My Darling Clementine, and The Robe, faced a heartbreaking and deeply private battle in his final years, one he kept hidden from the public until shortly before his death. Though known for his commanding presence on screen and his undeniable charm, Mature spent his later life quietly enduring a slow and irreversible decline into blindness, brought on by a combination of age-related macular degeneration and complications from undiagnosed diabetes. As his vision deteriorated, Mature became increasingly withdrawn from public life. The once vibrant actor, whose expressive eyes had captivated millions, struggled with the loss of independence that came with blindness. Friends close to him described a man grappling with frustration, sorrow, and a growing sense of isolation. Despite his declining condition, he never allowed himself to become a figure of pity. "I've had a good run," he would say, brushing aside concern with his trademark humility. But behind those words, a deeper pain remained, one tied to a secret he had carried for decades. In the final months of his life, Mature made the courageous decision to speak openly about a haunting experience that had burdened his conscience for years. In a heartfelt interview, recorded privately and later released posthumously by his daughter, he revealed a personal tragedy from his youth, one that had shaped much of his character and choices, yet remained unknown even to his closest confidants. As a young man, just beginning his rise in Hollywood, Mature had been involved in a brief romance with a fellow aspiring actress. The relationship ended abruptly, under tragic circumstances, when the young woman took her own life. Reportedly overwhelmed by the pressures of the film industry and feelings of abandonment. For years, Mature blamed himself for her death, believing that his sudden withdrawal from the relationship, pressured by his agent to protect his image, had contributed to her emotional collapse. Though no one ever publicly connected him to the incident, it was a source of unshakable guilt that lingered for the rest of his life. "I've spent decades trying to forget, but you never really do," Mature confessed in the recording, his voice trembling with age and emotion. "She was kind, beautiful, and talented, and I left her at her lowest point. Hollywood told me I had to think about my career, but I still wonder if I could have saved her." In what would become one of his final public interviews, he chose to reveal a deeply personal and painful secret, a revelation that stunned longtime fans and colleagues alike. The confession came during a rare, taped conversation with a biographer working on a retrospective of Mature's life. Speaking in a hushed, raspy voice, the aging actor admitted to a lifelong burden he had carried in silence. During his early days in Hollywood, at the height of his fame, he had been forced to make a harrowing decision. He had covered up a family tragedy in order to protect his rising career. In the 1940s, while filming Kiss of Death, he had received word that his younger brother had died, under tragic and mysterious circumstances. Rather than halt production or speak publicly about the incident, he buried the grief deep within himself, pushed forward with the film, and never spoke about it again. "I thought if the studio found out, they'd think I was too unstable to finish the movie, and I needed the work. I needed to be somebody," he said through tears, "but I was dying inside." The admission was haunting. It added layers to the public image of a man often seen as a charming, but somewhat one-dimensional matinee idol. The truth was far more complex. Mature had been a man torn between ambition and guilt, fame and family, light and darkness. His sudden decision to unburden himself, just as his physical world was fading to black, seemed to be his way of seeking peace. Shortly after making this stunning revelation, Mature's health rapidly declined. The effects of his degenerative condition, combined with other age-related complications, left him bedridden. His final days were spent in quiet reflection, surrounded by only a few trusted companions. In the days following the release of his confession, fans and friends alike reached out in support, praising his honesty and the bravery it took to share such a deeply personal chapter of his life. Tragically, however, Mature would not live long enough to fully experience the public's embrace. His health, already fragile due to blindness and complications from diabetes and heart disease, declined rapidly. Victor Mature passed away peacefully at his home in Rancho Santa Fe, California, on August 4, 1999, at the age of 86. Though the official cause of death was heart failure and leukemia, those close to him believed that the weight of his confession and the release of a burden he had carried for more than half a century had finally allowed him to let go. His funeral, a modest affair in keeping with his wishes, was attended by family, a few close friends, and admirers from the film industry who remembered him not just as a movie star, but as a deeply human and ultimately courageous man. In death, as in life, Victor Mature reminded the world that even the brightest stars carry shadows, and that sometimes the greatest act of strength is telling the truth. In the end, Victor Mature wasn't just a Hollywood star. He was a man who carried silent sorrow, made peace with his past, and found the strength to tell the truth when it mattered most. His story reminds us that even the strongest men have secrets, and sometimes the greatest courage is letting them go. If this touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to LGBTQ+ Vibes, where the truth always finds its voice.